Hello and welcome to another update from Midwest Container Home. This weekend was a big weekend because it is the weekend we finally poured the basement. It is poured and finished, so this is essentially the final surface, right? The rain got in the way a little bit, but we're able to make it happen in the end. Yeah, the pros did the job, the pouring, the actual pouring. I did all the preparation for it, which took me several months, I guess, bit by bit, nothing crazy. So that was the basement and the garage all together in one job. So that's what it looks like. And this is probably going to be one of the final, that's the sump up right there. Probably gonna be one of the final jobs of the year. Final big job. There'll still be stuff getting done, but mostly on the inside because it is cold now. So there won't be anything done that can potentially be influenced by the weather during the winter. So this was the last big one. Yeah, it's all done, and what I'll do now is I'll frame around and square all these columns and make them look nice and tight, and the garage doors will be installed. So hopefully they can still be installed during this season, but that's the goal. If not, no big deal. So I need to frame around and do the rough opening. And just as it is for this finish, anything that's like the final finish, anything that's going to be the final used finish or the final surface before use, I try to let the contractor do. So, my lack of skills can be very apparent if I do any finishing job on my own. So it was always the goal to do all the structural work and all the rough work, and then hand this whole thing to professionals at some point. So that's really what you're seeing. So everything's been done. Oh, and also we poured the slab, the cabana. So that's the road. So I have a wraparound road. I have a road that wraps around the structure. So this goes all around the structure. And here is the cabana, what we call a cabana. We just like the sound of it. Sounds good. Doesn't really mean anything to us, but that's how we call it. So this was poured as well. In the middle there, we're gonna fill it up with sand and some pea gravel, and we're gonna lay the pavers in there. So that will get elevated as well. But it was not the goal this time. The goal was just to box around it and pour. So I did all the boxing, all the prep work, all the back filling, and contractors actually did the pouring. This one was not buffed. It was simply broomed because it's outside, so it wasn't really a need to run the machine on it. So there's an incline to make sure water can run off of it. But yeah, so let me just go around. I realized I did not show some of these things because I was just busy. Let me just go around and show you the road that wraps around. And this is gravel, and I have some sort of underlayment on there, under the gravel, so it doesn't sink or get washed away. Well, as you can see, the basement windows stayed open because most of the concrete, we had to shoot it through the windows. That kind of allowed us not to have to rent a pump truck because those guys could use the windows. And that's one of the reasons why I've never installed the windows up until now. The windows still won't be installed, maybe not this year, just because I need to dig around and get the window wells built. I'm not going to buy the prefabricated window wells. I'm going to foam and pour it. So a lot of concrete at this side, as you can tell. So that's the road, and it wraps around the house. So this is just a 3-inch rock. It's not the finished rock yet, so this is what's called the base. So once we drove on top of it and compacted it really well, we are going to bring fine gravel and spray it on top of it. So as you can see, I used both bags for underlayment. It works. Yeah, it took about 60 bulk bags, so we got it from a company in town where they were disposing of it after they removed stuff like rice and beans and stuff like that out of it. So we got the bag and we cut open, and it makes a good top, and it's strong enough for underlayment. So that's the road that comes in. That's the easement. It keeps going until the road, so that is still my land up there. It goes all the way to the road, which is about what? I don't know exactly, but maybe 1,800 foot away from here before you can actually pull in the house. So that's the road. When you get in, you can split over there, or you can go down. Going down gets you in the garage or in the little courtyard, which for the moment is the basketball court for my son. So he's helped out quite a bit when he had a break during his last break, so he's here with me the whole time. So that leads into the courtyard in front of the garage. It keeps wrapping all the way back to the cabana, and then it wraps back. So that was very convenient. I mean, it's a little painful to have to do that, but the alternative is only being able to walk here during certain times. Like when it rains, it's really muddy, so I had to do this. Otherwise, it limits my ability to get some work done. As I mentioned before, I only work here a couple of hours a day, and these are nights. So 2-3 hours every night, and that's about it. So I have to make sure that some things are done a certain way to allow me to continue to do that. So when you get in the garage, that's a 8-foot door that you go through. Yes, it's a little big. I wanted it to be oversized, especially because of the way the house was built. It needed to be oversized because of this door, we could get the skid loader here to backfill. That's a floor drain here, so those guys are gonna come today and finish it. Floor drain over there. We have a toilet in this corner. We have a toilet here. We have another floor drain over here, and that's the sewage discharge pump that'll pump outside to the septic system. So that's about it. Yeah, I only work a few hours a night and all weekend. So it is important for me to guarantee accessibility. So there's some expenses that really, I get a pinch. It hurts a little bit, but I have no choice. I have to do it. Otherwise, it inhibits my ability to be consistent here. So that road was one of it. That's number one. The road also had to happen before the pour because I was always worried about the rain. Being that I chose to do it towards this time, towards the end of the year, this time around, it meant that there was always a risk I could have road issues at time of concrete delivery. So I had to go ahead when I was backfilling the basement with gravel. I went ahead and built that road just in case if the ground is wet, concrete trucks can still make it here. And it was very wet when they came, and it had rained 2 days in a row, so it was wet. So had I not done that road, maybe it wouldn't have been possible to pour this weekend, which essentially is the last weekend opportunity we had before freezing temperature come down before the end of the year, which would have meant this could not have been done until maybe April and May of next year. So I was really pushing my luck here. I was really pushing it to the edge, which, if you ask my wife, she'll tell you that's what I do. But I really pushed it. So that's another floor drain. Those guys are going to come elevate and finish it. And that's about it. So that's our meter. As you already know, we do have electricity here. That was the very first thing we did. So we installed electricity, which was another punch in the gut. Overall, because we are not in a development, we have to develop our own land, construction before we could, before it could be livable, before we could build, or as we are building. Because if you're building in an already developed area, there are things you don't have to worry about, like septic, water, electricity. These are big expenses that do not really go in the building per se. It doesn't really build the house that you see, but these are amenities that need to be available. Up until now, we still don't have water. Plans were to have water before this pour, and it has been the major delay. Up until the last minute, we thought we were going to get water, but unfortunately, things didn't work out that way because the goal was to get the water under the foundation and into the basement. So when that didn't happen, it didn't happen. We couldn't hold the pour anymore. We had to pour because it was getting really cold. So, when it's cold, below freezing, you can still pour, but it just requires too much, right? It's, the professionals are more demanding. The tools that they need, it's more specific. They need blankets to cover it so it doesn't freeze, so it can dry instead of freezing. Stuff like that. So there's we're kind of doing things backwards. Isn't this building also unique? It is unique, so things are gonna have to be done in a unique way. So that's really what's going on. I wanted to give you guys another update before I can go back in the inside, and all of these, there will be framing. All of this will be framed, and we'll have drywall. We don't have any humidity problem here because we'll have a lot of openings, so we will frame and put drywall down here. So yeah, the garage will be framed. That's the first framing that I will do on the inside and out, because I need to get the garage door installed. So I need to get that rough opening framed, which cannot stand on its own. So I will have to frame inside and out, because just putting the garage in there will not stand on its own. I want to make sure that it's almost a pre-finished surface, almost a finished surface per se. So when I'm done framing the rough opening for the garage, really the only thing that will go on it on outside is just going to be siding. So there is a chance at some point you will see this house partially sided. You will see this house partially sided because of the garage, right? Because once I do my framing and wrap it on the outside, there's nothing else to wait on to be able to put siding on this side of the garage, which will yeah, on this side of the house. So plan is to frame all of this because it'll tie to the garage rough opening, which means after that, we can pretty much slap siding on this whole side. But but again, that's how this house is being built. It's in chunks. Just taking our time because insulation is already there. We used ICF, insulated concrete blocks, to form our basement walls before pouring. So that's already insulated inside and out. So after framing goes on here, there's nothing else to wait on before drywall goes on it or siding goes on the outside. So that's pretty much it. Well, thanks for watching. Here was another episode of Midwest Container Home. You have a good rest of your day. Please subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Thank you. Bye-bye.